Shabbat Shalom, everybody that are watching by live stream, by Ustream, or by YouTube Eliyahu channel, or HaRuachEliyahu channel as well. I come to you live from the upper room in beautiful sunny California, Hayom, and we have a great message to share with you this Yom. I thank you for tuning in, or watching by pre-recorded, either watching on YouTube recorded, or by CD listening, or by DVD watching at a previous later time. I thank you if you're enjoying your Shabbat today or another day of a different calendar. We just greet you, Ma Shaloma, Ma Shalomka, may Yahuwah baruch you and keep you, and may His countenance overshadow you and just overwhelm you with His presence. Today, the message we're going to be speaking because we're preparing for Pesach, we're preparing for the peace to come up, and what we want to do is teach a little bit on the word covenant, what we call the Brit Kadasha, the renewed covenant. Some people say old covenant, but us Israelis or Jewish, we do consider nothing old when it comes to the Tanakh, because it's the basic foundation of our total being. So I have this picture here of Pesach, of putting the blood-stained lamb on the doorpost in order to protect you from the curse to come. Are you covered in the blood of the Hebrew Messiah? Are you covered in a different blood of a different Messiah by different names and words? Every different religious system has their own form of a Christi, an anointed one, or a Messiah of their form of religion. The Catholic Church have their own Messiah, which they sing on Estara Day. Easter Day is the son of, when they say Jesus in Latin and Greek, they're actually saying that he's the brother of Lucifer. In their songs they sing in the Vatican. So which Messiah are you covered under? What blood? Are you covered under the blood of the Hebrew Messiah that has eternal cleansing and deliverance to set us free? Have you the form of salvation coming from the Catholic Church, the Roman Apostolic Catholic Church, or you have salvation being grafted into the house of Israel and are part of the Barakat and the prosperity of Abraham, as sons of Abraham, of the belief and trust we call Emunah? What are you covered under this Yom? Well, this Yom we're going to teach you, we're going to share a little bit of the particular words that have been, how should I say, we have grafted these lies and inherited these lies for the sake of language that we speak. We're gonna break down the details of it, and then we're gonna look at it, and then you do your own analyzation if you want to use these words. The first thing we're going to talk about is that we speak about the Brit Kadasha, the renewed covenant, and we're going to look at the scriptures where it's in King James and other scriptures they say the Old Testament. Well, I want you to know that the word testamento is a Latin Catholic word. It's not in the original Greek, which we're about to see. And it was created in the year 1250 to 1300. It is the Latin word is testamentum. It's like testament with a U-M in the end. That's its form. Testa is the origin in 1200. And it means the last will and testament. Testate. Mentum. So it's testament. Testate, mentum. It's made up of two Latin words. Okay? In Greek, it's different. It means the covenant. Okay? By law, setting out dispositions of the dead's person's personal will and testa, or testament. Okay? Property. Now, if we say we're reading the New Testament, what we're doing is we're actually saying a person that died is not coming. When we say renewed covenant, we're talking about the Hebrew Messiah that was slaughtered, died, buried, and resurrection, and he's coming back again. So it's a specific, distinct difference going on when we say the renewed covenant, or if you say testamente or testamento. And that means somebody left a will, died, and left. The Catholic Church used that word because they say that the Pope, the Papa, the father of all the priests, is the chief father, is sitting on the seat of Cristo as a Christ, as a Cristo, as an anointed one, with their anointed oils and their little gimmicks of their anointing. All religions have anointings. They have a Cristo, they have a Christi, which means anointing. All sects of belief, even in the occult of witchcraft or voodoo, they have their form of anointing going on. Okay, they have their own saviors or Christis, anointed ones. They have their own high arch of leadership of religious systems, that when they take their steps of degrees of moving up to their cardinals and bishops and archbishops, or in chief warlock and all that, they have their form of anointing and anointings, okay, with their form of serums, of a potion of their type of anointed oils. The anointed oil that comes from the Mashiach or the Mashiach or the Moshiach, or the anointed oils that come from the Hebrew mindset of Levitical Kohanim, are different scent of a smell of Kodesh oil that's only used for those purposes. So, but we all have, like we have inherited these lies from Christianity of the Roman Apostolic Catholic Church and their harlot daughter offshoots, which we in the Christian community have once, many of us all have participated as one of the harlot daughters coming out of Catholicism, which is actually, we call denomination. Denominations come in different form. There's a $1 denomination, a $5 denomination, and there's a 10 and a 20 and 50s and 100s and 500s. And in Christianity, they all based your denomination and how many members you have in your congregation. And that's the little secret codes going on with that word, your denomination. We as Hebrew Israelites, or them that know the Israeli ways, we do not communicate in that manner. We don't look at each other when they're leaders and teachers based on the fact of how many people they're in their congregation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shift to Esort. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at where it says, we know that testament is from 1250, testa is 1200, 1250, testamentum, they got a um in the end of it, okay, testamentum in Latin. So it's a Catholic Latin word. And it has a protocol reason why they use that word is in order to get the people to understand the pecking order from the Pope, okay? That he's supposed to sit on the seat of the Christ, okay? Which we don't use the word, we use the word Mashiach. Mashiach means the second portion, anointed one. Mashiach is the first portion. Cristo basically means anointed one, and it's only equivalent to the word Mashiach. So they have belittled our Messiah and put him in the category of a minister of just the anointed by using the word Cristo. Okay, that's another topic. You can see it on my YouTube video on Mashiach, or Mashiach, anointed, or anointing versus Christ or Christi or Cristo. You can see that on YouTube. Now, what we're going to look at, we're looking at the King James, as you see on your screen, on Etyymologist chapter 26, verse 28. As you look in the screen, you see where it says, "For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." Okay? what we're going to do is we're going to look at the word old and we're going to look at the word new. Okay? In Greek, it is kahinos, which they say new or freshness. Now, actually in Greek, it's more of the word of freshness, coming from the root of 3501 in Greek. Now, so it's a fresh covenant. Testamente, the Latin word, we peel that word out, and we got diatheke, which means the dispensation of a contract, a covenant. They threw the word testamente, and then you see the brackets, especially a divisory will. So they give you a hint that the word testament in the Latin is a last will of testament of somebody that dies, as you can see here in front of your screen. Now I'm going to click it. I'm going to magnify it so you can read it yourself. Okay? So it's diatheke. Excuse me. So here it is. You can see the brackets where it says especially a divisory will. But in real life, in the dispensation is supposed to be the contract and covenant. We know the word testament is Latin and came years later in 1200. So we eliminate those even when we see in Esort, and we go to just the Greek translation, not transliteration. Testament is a transliteration, but not an original translation. So we don't want to be thinking that it's this last will and testament and the Messiah's not coming back. You know what I mean? It's sad when people think this way, and we don't put people down because that's all we've been trained to do and know, okay? Because we, in our King James Bibles or our Christian Bibles, and even some of the Messianic Bibles still use these words, but most Messianic have corrected the words to covenant. And some new translations in the Christian community use the word covenant too, okay? So I want to verify this. Now let's look at it with ISR. ISR says, "For this is my blood of the renewed covenant, which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sins." This is what you call a translation. It's not a transliteration, playing around with the Latin into English. This is a translation, renewed covenant. If I look at the Orthodox Jewish Bible, they always give so many great references of Scripture, which we're going to look at in a minute ourselves on Yerushalayim chapter 31 through 34. But it says here in Matthew 26:28, "For this is my Moshiach's," you got Isaiah 53:78, "Dam habrit ha-kadasha," the renewed covenant, which is poured out la rabim mini Yahushua, or should I say Yeshua? They're giving you a reference for the shelikah, forgiveness of the kataim, sins. So that's a good reference right there, translation in the Orthodox Jewish translation as well. It is a renewed covenant. It is a Brit Kadasha. It is totally renewed. So now, with this understanding, we're going to look at Yerushalayim because it gave us a reference when we looked at OJB, the Orthodox Jewish Bible. They give us a reference, and I picked one of them as a good reference. So we're going to go to Yerushalayim. Hani, the Yom come, says Yahuwah, that I will cut a Brit Kadasha, a new covenant, a renewed, with bias Yesharel and with bias Yehuda. This is the reference. When our Mashiach broke the bread, he says, and he took the cup, he said, "This is my renewed covenant." He say New Testament or new, it said renewed. It is refreshing. He's refreshing the covenant. Okay? Let's look at the ISR and see how they do it. See, the Yoms are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I shall make a renewed, there they say new covenant, but it's supposed to be renewed with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah. And what is the covenant? Not like the covenant I made with their fathers in the Yom, the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim. My covenants which they broke, though I was a husband to them, declares Yahuwah. Because when Moshe came down from the mountain, he said, "Hear, O Israel," and you have the 10-word covenant. He said, "Hear, O Israel, I espouse you as my wife." So it was a marriage covenant. All right. For this is the covenant I shall make with the house of Israel after those days, declared Yahuwah. I shall put my Torah in their inward parts and write it on their hearts, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And no longer shall they teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, "Know Yahuwah." For they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, declares Yahuwah. And I shall forgive their crookedness and remember their sins no more. For thus says Yahuwah, who gives the sun for a light by Yom, and the Torah of the moon and the stars for a light by night, who stirs up, and it shouldn't be stars as luminaries, okay, who stirs up the sea and the waves and roar, Yahuwah host is his Shem. Now, I want you to look at something here. The covenant is to the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. When our Messiah came, he had 12 Shelakim, ambassadors that were of the house of Israel, of different houses of Judah, Benjamin, of the house of Israel. Okay? And on and on. He didn't say he's making a covenant with the house of Christians. He didn't say he's making a covenant with the assemblies of God, the assemblies of God, or the church of God in Cristo, or the Roman Apostolic Catholic Church. The covenant was with Israel and Yehudah. And when Yeshua came, he didn't say, I'm now going to make a new religion and denomination and we're going to call it Christianity. No, he grafted us into the house of Israel for them that are not of the bloodline. Shaul went to minister to bring in the house of Israel as well as and Kepha as well as them that are being grafted in of different ethnos backgrounds, not gentilis, ethnos. That's the Greek word underneath another Greek word on top they call Gentile. It's really ethnos, or goy, the goyim, the ethnic groups that are other than Israeli. So he wanted us to be grafted in the house of Israel. This is the covenant. This is the reference to the scriptures we just read in Matthew. Okay? You can't take it and use it for somebody else like people want to. But it is for the purpose of the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. Okay? Which gives us references to Hebrew 8 through 12 and chapter 10, 16 through 17. Okay? I want you to understand what we're about to look at here. All right? Let's go now to Corinthians Aleph, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 25. Okay? And we're reading from the ISR. In the same way also he took the cup after supper, saying, this cup is the renewed covenant in my blood. As often you drink it, do this in remembrance of me. So the covenant, which the Catholics call communion, and even the Christians have inherited that word, we call it the Pesach, the Passover meal. Okay? So, and of course, every Shabbat, and the feast of the Shabbat, of the covenant of creation, which we're going to look in a little while, that this covenant is not called communion, it's called the feast of Pesach, or Passover, as we say it with the Latin letter English. And this is reference to what we just read in Yerushalayim chapter 31 through 34 verses. So now let's look. This is a reference telling you what took place. So now, and let's look at it at the Orthodox Jewish transcript. And it says, in like manner, after eating the Pesach, you see the Passover? Pesach, Sidah. Also, after Barakah, he said the prayer, not blessing, Barakah, the Kiddush cup. He took there's 5 cups. This is one of the cup of the wine. Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach, the Messiah. He took the cup, and this Kiddush Kosh cup is the Brit Kadasha. And he gives you a reference again to Yerushalayim 31:31, chapter 32:40, and other scriptures in Zechariah 9:11 and Shemot 24:6-8. Okay? This do as often as you drink it in Zechorim, remembrance of me, found in Joshua 4:7. So they give you some nice references in the Orthodox Jewish Bible. Okay? So now, let's go to Matthew 26. We're going to look at Matthew 26, verse 28. 26. So chapter 26. And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread, and having berekot, broke and gave it to the taught ones, and said, take, eat, this is my body. Verse 27. And taking the cup, and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you. Now, you got to realize there's five cups of Kiddush. One is an add-on in the Talmud, but there's actually 4 in the Pesach. Prayers and cups that they pray and then eat certain things, and then they partake of the cup. So this is the cup after with the bread and the wine. And take the cup and giving thanks, he gave it. So he said, giving thanks, that means he did a barakah. And he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood, that of the renewed covenant, which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sins. Okay, so now, it is a renewed covenant. He's renewing the covenant of the marriage vows, and the covenant is based on the foundation of the 10-word marriage covenant, which people call the 10 Commandments. Which the word commandment, if we don't have time to get to it, you can look it up in Hebrew yourself. On the list of the 10 Commandments, on the 3rd commandment, the word commandment appears, and it says, you look it up in Hebrew, it is a prescribed instruction. The 10-word marriage prescribed instruction. Okay? So he takes the cup, this is my blood, that of the renewed. He made this renewed covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. Now, if you are not by bloodline an Israeli or one of the tribes of Israel, according to Romans, according to Ephesians, according to different scriptures, you have to be grafted in Colossians, you have to be grafted into the house of Israel, so you're no more an alien but a fellow citizens into the house of Israel. This covenant is for you, Israel and Yehudah. It says it very carefully, okay? Because the reference always goes back to Yerushalayim chapter 31 through verse 34. Okay? Now, let's look also at Lucas chapter 22 verse 10, I think it is. We'll see if I scribbled it right. And he says here, and he said to them, with desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you for my suffering. Okay, he's going through the baptism of suffering, they call it. Okay, and we'll start at verse 16. And I say to you, I shall certainly not eat of it again until it is fulfilled in the reign of Elohim. And taking the cup, he gave him thanks. He did the barakah. And he said, take this and divide it among yourself. And I say to you, certainly not drink of the fruit of the vine in the reign of Elohim comes. Okay? And taking the bread, he gave you thanks, and he broke it, and he gave it to them, saying, this is my body, which is given to you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise, the cup. So he's showing 2 cups here, because there's 4 cups. In modern Hebrew, in Judah, they use 5 cups. The last cup is the cup of Eliyahu that nobody drinks out of, with a piece of bread on it. Okay. So likewise, the cup also after supper, saying, "This cup is the renewed covenant in my blood, is shed for you." So he's talking about the 4th cup. Okay. So it shows you 2 cups here in Luke. So you can read it all the way from verse 10 and go on down, and you see that there's different cups involved, and they give you a hint of the Hebrew understanding. Israelites know that there's several cups when it comes to Pesach, Passover. And he says the renewed covenant. If I go to Orthodox, it's the same thing. Rabbi Melech HaMashiach took the kosh, the cup, similar after they ate. After this kosh cup, ha-brit ha-kadasha, in my dam. Dam is my blood, okay, be shed for you. And you look at all the references they're giving you. You can look at it on the screen, freeze it, and you can go through the reference. And you'll see the one I read in Yerushalayim 31 through verse 34. Also in Etyymologist 41:9. It's another good one. Okay? So we verify this. It's called the renewed covenant. All right? How many covenants there are? Even in Christianity, as I look on the internet, many denominations of Christianity, of the Christian community, they understand there's several covenants. Some say there's 8 covenants. Some say there's 6. Some say there's 5 covenants since creation. We're going to look at 6, but before we go to the different covenants, so it's not Old Testament, New Testament. It's not Old Covenant, New Covenant. It is the Tanakh covenants, because there's 5 in there. And then there's the renewed covenant, which is the 6. All right? Now, when the Mashiach comes and we go into New Jerusalem and we spend the Shabbat 1,000 years from him, there's going to be another renewed covenant. And it's going to be for us in New Yerushalayim and all the believers all together. And there's going to be another supper. And we got the supper of the Lamb. We got the supper of the bride and the groom. And we're having that supper, and that's going to be another covenant that's going to be given to us as we're enter in to New Jerusalem and we receive new bodies and supernatural bodies, and we're going to walk in a supernatural covenant at another level. Okay? And even though we have 6 covenants, which we're going to look at, the different covenants, those are layers of the foundation. You cannot destroy the first 5 covenants and say, I'm only reading the renewed covenant, the New Testament, because you have other 5 covenants that are the foundation of the building. If you pull the rug out from under the building like a foundation of those layers, what you're doing is you're destroying the very foundation that the covenant we have, the renewed covenant, based on that supper of Pesach with the Messiah and the disciples, and you're tossing it asunder. You're destroying the foundation. So even the renewed covenant, or they call the New Testament, is destroyed without the foundation of Tanakh and Torah. Okay? So now, what we're going to do is look at the word old. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 14, which is Corinthians Bet, chapter 3, verse 14. I'm going to go to King Amos. We're going to start off with King Amos. If you're new to Eagles Haven or HaRuachEliyahu channel, James, the letter J did not exist 500 years ago, so King James was really King Artemis, the Scotchman, the son of Bloody Mary, from Queen of Scots. So it was Artemis. It put an I instead of a J, because it morphed from an I to an H sound to a J sound, his name. Okay, the words with the letters of J, the Germanic, poetic Latin letter J. Okay, so we look at chapter 3, verse 14. But their minds were blinded, for until this Yom remains, for the same veil taken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Messiah. Or should they say, they belittle the Messiah and say, anointed one, because that's what Christ means. Look at it. I'm going to click it so you can see it large in the bottom. Okay? Christos, anointed. It's really supposed to be Messiah. Now you see in the bottom it says epithet of Jesus. You look up the word epithet in the dictionary, it means a nickname, a rude slang nickname. Okay? Epithet. So Christ is an epithet. It's a rude slang word for the Messiah, Yahushua. Mashiach, Messias is Greek. Messias is Greek. There's a Greek number for Messias, and it's found in John. Okay, so why use Christos, the Catholic, when there's a Greek word Messias for the second and portion anointing, marking a Messiah, and they use the word only anoint, Christos. All right. So now, let's get back to it. They say the word Old Testament. Now, you see number 3820. I want you to pay attention to that number. The word old. The word old actually is old in old ancient English, comes from year 900, in which is it's actually ALD, alt, ALD. In the Germanic tongue, it was ALT, alt. And then the year 1200, the Great Britain in the English language adopted the Dutch form of the word old, and it's spelled OLD. So OLD, old, is Dutch. And it's from the year 1200. It was created in 1200. So we know that word old doesn't exist. We know that the word testamento or testamente, mentu, two words together, a will and a testament, 1240 T, okay, so both these words are from the year 1200. So the word old, if I were to use the word old, meaning done away with, okay? If I were to use it, it would be Greek word 3822, and it means something that's been obsolete, done away with, vanished away, erased it, wiped it out, completely gone, okay? But this is 3820, which means antique or not recent. They added the word worn out and old, okay? Of course, if a foundation of a house is really just not worn out and destroyed and worth nothing, you have to tear a house down, because the house will be cracking and falling apart and the whole building would come apart. You have to tear it down and rebuild it, okay? And when I was in real estate, I had friends that bought properties and the foundation of the building was great, but the top was eaten by termites. So all they did, they got a clean permit, very easy permit, and they just tore down the stick house, and they built right on top of the original cement foundation. And it's a very easy permit because you don't change no footage, height, or anything. You build the same house but modernized, built on the basis of a strong foundation. If a foundation is so old it's destroyed and worthless, the whole building has to be torn down. So when the Christian community say that the Old Testament's done away with, we don't need it, they're saying that their foundation of the New Testament does not exist anymore. Okay? So we based it on renewed covenant. They call New Testament, New T, and we call the 5 covenants of the Tanakh, which are still the foundation layers for the foundation of the Brit Kadash, the renewed covenant. You got it? So it's Greek number 3820, which is pa'aos, which is like antique, not recent. If I go down here to Beaumont and I go to an antique store, the furniture is more expensive than brand new. It's got more value because an antique has value. It's something not recent or out of stock, so it has a greater value. So the Tanakh has more value as the foundation for the Brit Kadasha, the renewed covenant, as a reference for the new covenant, and it's not recent. It's not worn out and old, because these are new words of understanding. Now I'm going to click to 3822. 3822 in Greek which is pa'u, is to is to be worn out, declare obsolete, decay, wax old, make wax old. In other words, it's you can't build nothing else on it no more. This is the word for old. Now remember, the word old, okay, listen to this what I'm about to tell you. The word old is over 17 to 19 times with Greek different meanings. I have 19, it could have been 20. There was a couple that had root words, 21. So officially, anywhere from 19 different Greek words where they pancake this OLD Dutch word called old on top. And the word old with these different Greek words all have different meaning. There's one word for old man, one word for old woman. There's one word for old house, one word for old temple, one word for oldest child. So in other words, in Greek, there's 19 different meanings for the word old. So when they say a word, the person knows with just one word what they're describing. They don't have to use the word old. Old child, oldest son, old wife, old whatever. Okay? The word old hag came in 1700. All right? So old man was 1500. Right? So these words were added on later to the Dutch word OLD. Now, this particular Greek word 3822 is one of the Greek words for declared obsolete, don't use it no more. The foundation, it's destroyed. So when you say Old Testament, if it doesn't have 3822, it's not, that's what it means. People have looked at it in Latin letter English, and they have adopted these lies from their forefathers from the Catholic Church of the harlot daughters of religion, of the mother harlot of religion, producing these harlot prostituted daughters they call denomination offshoots. And now, if you never heard my sermon on that, don't get upset. Go on YouTube and see that evangelistic Christian community evangelists have now come under the back to the Vatican through the Lutherans, the Methodists, and then now the Word of Faith movement, as well as the ministers on screen, all in the Vatican, coming back under the Mother Circe, the Mother Church. They're a part of the harlot daughters. They're admitting they're a part of the harlot daughters by coming back in. Okay, and that Protestantism and Reformation is no more. All right, because they're getting adopted back in, getting ready for the New Order religion, and it's going into the faith movement and evangelistic movement and all the Christian denominations. And the Seventh-day Adventists, can't, even as much as they talk bad about the Catholic Church, they are on the list too of their elders going there to visit the Pope. So we have a lot of deception going on among the people. So 3822 in Greek, this word is the word for worn out. The one we saw for this scripture is 3820. Okay? Is pa'alos. Okay? Antique, not recent. All right? Right now, I would give anything if I had a storage back in my day and all the Mustangs, the GTOs, the Camaros, the Firebirds that I owned. They cost $1,500, $1,800, $2,200 out the door, brand new. All those cars back then that are worth anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 today. So an antique, is it old and throw away? No, it's got more value than a brand new car today. Those antiques, okay? They might be not recent, but they're not old. You know what I mean? You can get a shell of a GTO and sell it for 10 grand. A rusted old shell, just to have that stamp of that ID number that it's originally a vehicle and what type of model it is. So it's the same thing with our renewed covenant and the first 5 covenants, which we are going to go to now. Now you do your own homework on the understanding of this, but realize this: the word old is Dutch and it's from the year 1200. Testamento is 1200 to 1250 to 1300. All right? So now, these are Latin words or different languages of our adopted in through the Dramatic Geneva translation and the King James that actually steal the meaning of the root of a translation and make it into a transliteration. All right? So now, what we're going to go to, this is the prep for the sermon. We spent like 40 minutes on a prep, okay? So now, we're going to go to the 6 covenants. Yeah, 6 covenant. Our Mashiach did the 7th covenant, all right? And then when we go into New Yerushalayim, there's going to be another supper and another cup, because he says, even in Luke, that he's not going to drink the cup again, the cup of covenants, until we're all together in New Jerusalem for the 1,000-year Shabbat celebration. Okay, the 7th day of creation, the Shabbat rest. So now, we're going to look at the first covenant. Okay, now I might have to extend this to next week and do a part 2. But I'm prepping and getting ready for Pesach, they call Passover. I'm getting ready for the feast, and I really want you to understand the covenant and the use of the proper words of it. So we're going to look at the creation covenant. And we're going to go to, actually, Bereshit, chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. And we're going to read it with King Amos first, and then we're going to read it with cleaner translations. Okay? Thus, the Shamayim and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th Yom, the Shabbadon, the 7th Yom, Yah ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the Shabbat, or Shabbadon Yom, for all his work which he had made. And Yah Barut the 7th Yom, and set apart, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Yah created and made. And then it goes on, these are the generations of the Shamayim and the earth, and when they were created. Then he rehearses it. So he lets you know that Shabbat was a covenant for the earth. When Israel backslid and they did not have no Sabbath rest for their land, he would come and wipe them off the land and take them into a foreign land with a foreign mighty, Syria, Babylon, whatever, to mark the amount of years they missed for the Shabbat. 70 years, 70 years. Okay? 40 years, 40 years. Whenever they missed their Shabbats, all right, as a nation, they were taken off the land to let the land rest, because the Shabbat is the covenant to the earth and for mankind. It is not, it was way before, it was Torah right rule, even before the 10 marriage rule covenant, where you see to keep the Shabbat in the 10-word marriage covenant they call the 10 Commandments. Okay? So the initiation of the covenant of the Shabbat, the feast of the Shabbat, was for creation. And we're going to look, it doesn't give very much information here, but the reference of it is, we're going to look at now at ISR. Thus the Shamayim and the earth were complete in all their array. And on the 7th Yom, or the Shabbadon Yom, Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the 7th Yom from all his work which he had made. And Elohim Berekat the 7th Yom, and set it apart, because on it he rested from all his work which Elohim in creation had made. Now, they say that the age of the understanding of the dispensation of the maturity of the 6,000 years has come to a close already. We're about either in or entering the 7,000 year, or should I say, the count into the 6,000, or the ending of the 6,000 in the Hebrew calendar. They already ended the 6,000, and the 7,000 year must begin with a 1,000-year Shabbat. So that's why we're expecting the Messiah to come and take us into the 1,000-year Shabbat rest with him, and be them that are dead will be rise first, then them that are still alive and remain will be caught up in the air and go with him to the 1,000-year reign of the Shabbat feast of New Jerusalem that's coming down. Okay, so now let's look at Exodus, or Shemot, chapter 31, verse 13. And you speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, my Shabbats, with an S, you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I, Yahuwah, am setting you apart. Okay? He didn't say it's cut off and stopped. It's some new Catholic error. No, it's throughout generations. The footnote leaves the only sign of Yahuwah setting us apart, the only sign of everlasting covenant. It's an everlasting covenant according to Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12 and verse 20. Is his Shabbats, one of them being the seventh Yom Shabbat. This is repeated in Ezekiel. Okay. And you shall guard the Shabbat, for it is a Kodesh, or set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death. For anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people. 6 yoms you work is done, and on the 7th is the Shabbat of rest, Kodesh, or set apart to Yahuwah. Everyone doing work on the Shabbat day shall certainly put to death. Now, it has a spiritual implication, not just a physical. If I backslide and I have sex with a woman that has AIDS, the spirit of death will come into my body. I might be physically alive right for a while till the disease takes its fullness, but death has already come in because I broke the hedge of my covenant. Okay? So the person is going to start death with their DNA in their body. Now listen carefully to what I'm saying. When I used to have the world's biggest dinosaur park off the side of the 10 freeway, I used to teach creation and design and DNA, and even visit public schools to give my version of creation design that I was taught when I was working with the Southern Baptists. Now, our DNA of our atoms in our body, there's certain simple proteins. Our simple proteins in our body, every 6 days, stops, builds a new factory, and rests. In the end of the completion of the 7th cycle of Yom, 7th cycle of light, because your body knows when it's light and knows when it's darkness. In darkness we sleep, in the light we awake. Okay, and we receive more vitamin D and more energy from the night than the daytime, than the night. Those 7 cycles of Yom, the 6th cycle, our simple proteins shut down, build a new factory, close up the old factory, and start with new proteins for a new factory for the next 6 days. And it needs to rest. The body needs to rest from work, because if your proteins are shutting down that factory, that engineering factory, and you're still working a 10-hour shift and you're going for 2 to 3 weeks, your immune system tears down and you get colds, you get sick, you have physical problems, you have aches and spasms in your muscles, in your ankles, in your calves, in your bones. Your body jerks when you're trying to sleep, because the body is trying to shut down and rest. And then we do is we sit and we read Torah, we fellowship, we stay at home. You don't necessarily have to go to any service, but we stay at home and we rest and we refresh ourselves. We read Torah, we listen to Torah, we listen to worship music, we enjoy our children and grandchildren as they play with coloring and do Hebrew words, and they learn things about Yahuwah and Yahushua, and we enjoy and relax. We don't talk about business, we don't spend money, we just rest, we chill out, okay? And our simple proteins does what it's supposed to do in the 6 to 7 cycles of light they call Yom, day. This is going on physically in our bodies. I'm just telling you one aspect of DNA that shuts down. There's a 3-day cycle, there's a 7-day cycle, there's a 30-day cycle. There's certain cycles that they have to rest in order to, we got a new moon cycle, that's the 30 days that our body rests too during the new man. There's certain atoms and proteins that have to rest, okay? So now, when you don't, like I said, it destroys your amino acids, destroys all kinds of things in your body, your immune system. So take heed what I'm saying, okay? Let's keep reading. 6 Yom's work is done, and on the 7th is the Shabbat for rest, set apart to Yahuwah. Everyone doing work on the Shabbat shall certainly be put to death. So you're already starting the death, the decay of your atoms in your body. And if you get caught in the days of Israel, even today, if you're not careful, if you're in the wrong Jewish court, you will get stoned or really scolded, right? They'll slap something out of your hand if you got a shovel or a broom, you know what I mean? And give you a warning, okay? And the children of Israel shall guard the Shabbat. To guard means to protect and practice the right rule of Shabbat. To observe the Shabbat throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant. How many know what the word everlasting means? Everlasting means it stopped when Yeshua came, and now they worship on the first day of the week, which the 14 times the word 15th day of the week. First day of the week, you go and look at that teacher, is the first day of the week in the Greek, and I'm going to show you that what words were add-on filler words to the Catholic Church and the King James version, and it really is the first Shabbat, or the Shabbaton, okay, of that week. Okay, so you go ahead and look at this study separate. Now, this is an everlasting covenant. Why? Verse 17, between me and the children of Israel, it is a sign forever. Why? Look at it. We read it in Genesis 2. For in 6 Yoms, Yahuwah made the Shamayim and the Arets. And on the 7th Yom, he rested and was refreshed. So, it is the covenant of the earth. We come from the dust of the earth, which is mineral. Animals come from the protein they call the dirt. Animals are from the dirt. We are from the dust. Dust is mineral. Animals are protein. Animals use more protein in their diet, and we have more mineral context. We use protein and carbs and good calories and bad calories and stuff like that, and carbohydrates. But we have more mineral in our diet, okay? Because we come from the dust. So it is the covenant of the earth. And that's why this is a part of the first covenant, okay? And the first covenant continues still today. And it would continue when we go for the 1,000-year Shabbat with our Messiah. So the covenant continues forever. Let's read the second covenant, the Adamic covenant. And let's go to Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 3, verse 21. And we're reading from the ISR. And Yahuwah Elohim made coats of skin for the man and his wife and dressed them. And Yahuwah Elohim said, see the man who has become like one of us to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth out his hand and take also of the tree of high and eat and live forever. So they were protected from eating the tree of high, or they will be eternally doomed. So what he did, like the fallen angels, so what he did, he escorted them out of the garden. All right, and let's read, as you read there, they took on skins, and there's a reason they took skins. Okay, there's actually a reason. We're going to look at chapter 4 now. The Father made skins for them. Okay? Whenever you see pictures of a man and a woman naked with little leaves, that's what they did before the Father came and slaughter a lamb and clothe them with lamb's wool. Okay? In Greek mythology, Prometheus created the first man and woman, and they have leaves. You can see that in the front of the Rockefeller Court, as well inside their skating ring of the Rockefeller Court in New York. And they have leaves on their body for the first man and woman of the Prometheus, which is what we call the fallen one, Mastodon, the reptilian deity. Okay, it's not Lucifer. Lucifer's a Catholic word added in 1500. Okay, it's Ha'el, the son of the howling of the moon. So now, he put skins on them. So there was a covenant sacrifice. Chapter 4, verse 1 through 7, we're going to read. And Adam knew Hawa, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man from Yahuwah. And again she gave birth to his brother, Hebel. You say Abel, but Hebel. And Hebel became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. And it came to be in the course of time that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Yahuwah. And Hebel also brought of the firstborn of his flock of their fat. And Yahuwah looked to Hebel and his offering. And he did not look to Cain and his offering, but Cain was very angry and his face fell. And Yahuwah said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face fallen? If you do well, is there no acceptance? And if you do not do well, sin crouches at the door, and its desire is for you, but you shall master or control it. Footnote: sin, transgression of the law, was already then known. Also found in 39:9. Okay, so let me back up here. As you can see here, they were already inherited the tradition from Adam of how to do a lamb sacrifice. For without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sins. Okay, our Messiah was the ultimate lamb. Now let's look at verse 26. And to Seth, to him also a son was born, and he called his name Enos. Then it was begun to call on the name of Yahuwah. The first recording of calling on the name of Yahuwah. Now, this is in Genesis 4:26. They're calling on the name. When people say they didn't know his name, come on now. They forgot it with this pagan word Lord. All right. Now I'm going to look at it with the Orthodox Jewish Bible translation. And it's Sheet. To him also were also born Ben, and he called Shmo Enos. Then began men to call on the name of Yahuwah. They say Hashem because they block the name of Yahuwah. Okay? Of course, you already know in King Imus that Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call on the name of Yahuwah. Okay? So now, Adam knew the name of Yahuwah, and he taught it to his sons. And the sons started to learn to practice the sacrifice. Now, if you go to the book of Yasher, they call Jasher, the scroll of Yasher, they call Jasher. In that scroll, they teach you the details of this story. That the skins of Adam and Hawa that were the father sacrificed for them. And in this painting, it shows Adam and Hawa with skins about to continue their yearly Peshach or sacrifice for sins for them and their children. They taught their sons and daughters to do this. And over time, their sons and daughters that backslid, especially after the flood, and there's other backsliding going on, they started sacrificing other things up to humans. But they learned how to do it this way. All right? So, as we understand this and get this revelation of it, the book of Yasher teaches it more fully to you, the revelation that little tiny piece in Genesis, in which we read in Bereshit 2 and 4 and those verses, you realize that, wow, there's a story missing. What happened? Where did the skins come from? He clothed them with sheepskins. Okay? For without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sins. Okay? So now, there has to be a confession. According to Yeshayahu, Isaiah, if we confess our sins, He's faithful to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Though our sins be as scarlet, as be white as snow, they red as crimson, they should be as wool. But it's also the shedding of blood. Okay? So in this covenant was the Adamic covenant. They taught him the lamb during the season of Pesach before we even knew it was Pesach. These are our forefathers of Adam and Hawa, and our forefathers of his sons. Okay? And it's found the details of this information of the lambskins that were on Adam and Hawa that Enoch gave to, and Methuselah, Enoch agreed, and gave to Noah and his wife. That's why all the animals would come to the ark freely. And in the book of Yasher, he demonstrates that all the animals came and bowed to Noah. They were wearing Adam and Hawa's lambskins that the father sacrificed. Okay? And then it disappeared when Cain stole it from Noah and gave it to his son, which we call Nimrod, which became a great hunter. Yeah, of course, a great hunter, because wherever he went, the animals would bow to him. Okay? Because he had those skins. The skins disappeared off record after Nimrod. Okay? Who knows? In Greek mythology, they call it the golden fleece. In Greek mythology. They put on people and they would be healed and rejuvenated and last a long time. People were searching for the golden fleece. That's Greek mythology for this covenant. Okay? Now, as we know, the Shabbat is eternal. That was the first covenant. An eternal covenant of creation. The second covenant was Adam, the Adamic covenant. Okay? Now, this is not a Hebrew mindset 100%, because you can go online and you can see 5, 6, and up to 8 covenants that different Christian denominations have searched for to see the different covenants all the way up to the 7th covenant of our Mashiach. Okay? So now we're going to look at the Noach covenant, and we're going to go back to Bereshit, Genesis chapter 6, 18. Starting from verse 18, but with you, I'm reading King Amos, but with thee will I establish my covenant, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every shall you bring into the ark to keep alive with you. They shall be male and female. You notice I didn't read in King James the light italics, light ink letters, because that's not in the original Hebrew. Those are English filler words. So let's look at now to ISR. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and I shall come into the ark, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons and your wives and your sons' wives with you. And of all the living creatures of all flesh, 2 of each, you are to bring into the ark to keep them alive with you, male and female. They got the list, the birds, the animals. Anything that went into the ark went through a form of water immersing, the mikvah tevilah. And they went in and came out of the waters, and when the flood succeeded, they went through a form of, they call baptism, but we call it tevilah, okay, immersing. So that boat was going in and out of the water like a storm of tidal waves. In and out of the water. Is being dipped in and out for almost half a year, in and out. You know, it was floating and the water was high. So there was a cleansing, and everybody in the ark is like the ark of the covenant. Everybody's in the ark, and they're protected from the curse of death that took place on the world. And it was a covenant established with Noach. Okay? And that's called the Noach covenant. Now, if we look at chapter 8, turn to your scriptures to chapter 8, verse 20. So he presented to them before they went in. They built the ark. They went in the ark. Animals, everything in the ark went through a form of mikvah tevilah. When they came out, there was a confirmation of the covenant, in which we're going to see what it is. It was a visual sign. And Noah built an altar to Yahuwah, and took of every clean beast and every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. So the first fruits that was in the, giving offspring in the ark, he took to sacrifice in the new earth, the new eretz. Okay? And Yahuwah smelt the soothing fragrance, and Yahuwah said in his heart, never again shall I curse the ground because of man, although inclination of men's heart is evil from his youth, and never again smite all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, winter and summer, yom and night shall not cease. Look at chapter 9, verse 8 now. And Elohim spoke to Noah and his sons with him, saying, and I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. Now remember, when he came out, the covenant was with all living beings, as well as Noah and his wife and children. When they came off the ark, they did a sacrifice with the covenant of every animal, of clean animals, and the unclean animals were watching. You know what I mean? If there were little baby good dinosaurs still alive at that time, because I believe that some dragons of different type of species were in the ark that were the clean beasts. They were the demonic beasts possessed by demons, okay, or fallen ones. And Elohim spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, and I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and every living creature that is with you, of the birds, of the cattle, of every beast of the earth with you, and all that go out of the ark, every beast of the earth. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and never again in all flesh cut off by the waters of a flood or a tsunami through the whole world. And never again is there a flood to destroy the earth. And Elohim said, this is my sign of the covenant, which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you for all generations to come. I shall set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Now listen, I shall set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. He already had covenant with Adam, with Noah, his wife, and children, and the mikvah they did, in the ark, and all the animals. Now the covenant is of the rainbow, is the cloud, or the rainbow in the cloud. And it shall be when I bring a cloud over the earth, and that rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. And I shall remember my covenant, which is between me and you, and every living creature on all flesh, and never again let the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I shall see it, and a rainbow everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. So the rainbow is for, as you see here in Scripture, is for the earth and all the animals. But yet homosexuals use the rainbow, the covenant, for them. Okay? So they're calling themselves an animal? So the covenant is for the earth and the animals. The covenant already during the clean animal sacrifices, he already had a covenant with with Noah covenant and his children and sons and daughters. Okay? And they're to be offspring. Now, so when the gay homosexuals use the rainbow as a sign, they're saying he's not going to kill me because he promised not going to destroy the earth. For what reason not going to destroy? Because of the sins that was going on of Sodom and Gomorrah even before the flood. So it's puffed up. They're saying he's not going to kill us. He made a covenant with. But they don't realize that rainbow is for the earth and the animals. Okay? And their sins will find them out through plagues and diseases. Because you come out of the covenant to be clean and serve Yahuwah with the Kodesh Ruach of Yahuwah. Okay? All sin will kill you and destroy you. Murder, robbery, stealing is the same sin of homosexuality. It's still all the same category. Every sin will kill you. Every sin will start to decay of your body. You eat unclean animals, you're going to start the decay of your body. Death will come in. You break the Shabbat, you're going to start the cycle of the Yom cycle, in the DNA of our simple proteins are not going to be able to rest on Shabbat. So the cycle of death comes in when you don't do Shabbat. So all of this is all working together for Tov. We're going to continue next week on the Abraham covenant and the Moshe covenant, Moses, and the David covenant and the Yahushua's covenant, the next covenant. There are 7 covenants. Okay? The Messiah did the renewed covenant number 7. When we get into New Jerusalem, there's going to be another one. At the supper, when he gets the cup, it says in Luke, he will not drink again to New Jerusalem. You know what I mean? With you, and I'll sit have supper with you. And he's going to make another covenant with us, where we're going to have eternal bodies back then, supernatural bodies living for 1,000 years. A new tabernacle. We're going to have the dead in Messiah will rise first, then them that are alive will be caught and meet them in the air. It doesn't say heaven, the German word heaven, where Odin, Thor, and all them live. It means you meet him in the air, and then we go with him to New Jerusalem. Okay? As we study the covenants and prepare for the Pesach, the reminder of Passover covenant, and the feast, and the high Sabbaths that are coming also at the same time period. If you would like to have, and if you're watching and I haven't been able to mail your free package, please forgive me because I am traveling. All my supply is in Texas. So just wait till I get back. Don't worry, I'm looking at the list. I'm creating the list for the free mail outs of DVDs, CDs, and also the brochures and pamphlets. It's all for free. You can go online to eaglehavenministry@yahoo.com. Give me your full name and address you want it mailed to. You tell me what videos or what CDs of my wife's music on Yahuwah worship on my playlist on Eliyahu channel, HaRuachEliyahu channel. But you go to Eagles, as you see on the screen, eaglehavenministry@yahoo.com, and you send me your full name and address, and I will mail to you for free the replacement theology pamphlet to teach you the correct words in English as well as in Hebrew and the clean words in Greek versus the Latin, Catholic, Greek, pagan words that we're speaking today in this English language. And if you want to give, you can go to eagleshavenministry.com. That is .com, that's the website, and you can go to the PayPal and you can donate freely so I can replenish all the supplies to give freely to people wherever I go. The other day I was speaking at a meeting and I was giving people, some people have 10, 15 videos, 2 or 3 CDs and pamphlets, and they said, how much is this? I said, it's all for free. I received it for free, I give it for free. And if you want to return the supplies, you can go on PayPal and put it in, but don't give me no money because I'll accept no money during Shabbat, and I don't carry even money, okay? So people were startled on the Hebraic understanding of giving and receiving, okay? They receive a gift for free. There's no obligation, but I get some people that they give me, I give them pamphlets, but they still every month give so I can continue to replenish the supplies of DVDs, CDs, and burning and ink and all that stuff to make these CDs and DVDs and pamphlets, and for I can give it to others all over the world, because we have people from Great Britain, India, people from China, Korea that watch us, and I send material, and it's very expensive, okay? If you want these pamphlets and material on a PDF or a Word PowerPoint, make note of it. I can send you the templates, you can copy it in your computer, and you can burn your own copies. If you live in Puerto Rico or Great Britain or Ireland or somewhere else, and some of the people didn't want me to spend a few $100s on weight, on shipping to those foreign countries, and even Israel, so I send them the templates, and then they can burn their own copy with a thumb drive when they go to a printer place. Or I give them the PowerPoints, and they can use the PowerPoints to do the teachings. If you want all this, it's all for free. I give it to free because I want you to be supplied with ammunition to teach others. I want you to be disciples in the form of the Greek word of discipleship, that you're a disciple learning to be a learner in order to teach others. Okay? To go make disciples of all the nations of the world. So Go with Yahuwah. I thank you for tuning in. And I thank you for watching. And we praise Yahuwah and thank you. And I'm going to pray with you right now. May Yahuwah baruch you. May his berekat be upon you. And may he overwhelm you with his berekot in the Shem of Yeshua. And all the prosperous favor be upon you, your children and grandchildren, future or now. And I pray that your Shabbat will be a shalom, and it'll be a shalim of ultimate prosperity and rest. Thank you for tuning in to HaRuachEliyahu channel and EagleShavenMinistry.com. Amen and Amen.